Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
This is part 2 of our 3, maybe 4-part series of going back through Mass Effect with the Legendary Edition having just came out.
I think you said R, like I'm also a part of this. I'm just like, I remember Mass Effect.
Well, I am replaying what I'm remembering is one of my favorite franchises ever. Mm-hmm. Well, Doug is sitting there going, I should probably play Mass Effect because they're great.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is part 2. Mm-hmm. So I just finished up Mass Effect 2. Mm-hmm. I actually haven't played this since it was originally released. I only went through it once. And cool. And that feels weird because having in my mind, this was always one of those games where it's like, that is one of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah.
But I've only played it once. And it was
so you had no idea.
15 years ago. So it was one of those things where it's like, I just slotted in my top 10 because at the time it was. And I was like, well, it must have been good.
Sure.
I remember being pretty good. But having gone back through it, this game is so good for so many reasons. Yeah. And the Legendary Edition actually throws in all the DLC and stuff, which I thought I played, and I realized there was one that I didn't because I actually hadn't seen it before. And I was like, this seems very new. So the DLC's all in it. The DLC is incredible, awesome side stories that go along really well with what's going on. So just the whole game itself is just incredible.
I remember Mass Effect 2. I'm just curious, like, because you jumped from Mass Effect 1 to 2, and I remember 2 made a lot of, like, I'll just say quote-unquote improvements, but it's just, like, massive amount of changes to how that game functioned. Was it kind of, like, wild going, like, from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, and, like, all the changes, and did you like the changes and that kind of stuff?
So, Legendary Edition updated a lot of the, like, archaic stuff in Mass Effect, the first one.
Oh, okay.
So, no, because it actually plays almost exactly the same as Mass Effect 1.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Because like one of the few things that Legendary Edition did, it changed up a lot of the stuff that Mass Effect 1 did to make it fit better with 2 and 3.
Oh, okay.
So there's definitely, you can definitely feel like this was designed much better for combat situations. This is designed much more third-person shooter first, RPG second.
Yeah.
Just in the way that the combat does, because the combat's balanced almost perfectly. Every power, gun, ammo type seems like it has their places. The way that every encounter is kind of set up, the way that things are designed with all the like waist-high walls, everything's in its right spot, everything fits perfectly, and it's really designed to be that shooter first with those extra powers kind of coming in from your squad mates as you need them. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get, because that's what I was expecting. I was like, okay, so this is going to be a huge improvement from Mass Effect 1. And then I went, oh, that's pretty much the same game I just played, just clearly more fine-tuned. Like, clearly, like, was designed with this play style in mind.
That's interesting. So I guess the changes then wouldn't be as big, but I mean, like, because it's just plot and characters and stuff is what did really good in the first one. So the second one also, assume does that pretty good.
Exactly. It's almost like they went back and went, okay, let's adjust Mass Effect 1 to the gameplay standard of 2 and 3.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool.
So again, I think the biggest change just comes in the fact that you can kind of feel as you're going through and as you're playing it, like, okay, this was intended this way, whereas Mass Effect 1 has some weird spots where you're like, oof, this is kind of difficult, this is kind of clunky, like, okay, like, yeah. Because I think, again, that gameplay was a little bit different in the initial version.
Gotcha.
So I don't want to talk forever about this because it's like a 10-year-old game, so most of you have already played, and if you haven't, please stop listening and go play it. But the opening of this game is so good.
Yes. Yeah, like, I do remember the opening.
So basically the opening takes place a little while after all this stuff goes down, and you're on the Normandy, you're just doing another mission, and the Normandy just gets the shit blown out of it, and Shepard dies.
Yeah, I really love the scene because I remember the scene because it's like you're in space, like the ship explodes, but you're still inside a spaceship that exploded. So instead of just dying, like aren't you like walking through the ship or something like like after it's been destroyed?
Yeah, you're like trying to get other people out, trying to make everything happen. It's probably a 15-minute scene or so, and it has that like captain going down with the ship vibe of like Shepard's gonna save his crew and like, oh, the Normandy's gone, but like I'm gonna get my people out of here, and it's like, oh, but yep, I'm dead. Yeah. And that's the first 20 minutes of this game, is you just die, which is one of those weird things where, like, you wouldn't think it would work. To like, oh, we're just going to kill off the main character in the beginning of the game, and then you're going to play as the main character, of course, because you're still Shepard.
Yeah.
it's one of those things that hits hard because you don't anticipate it, especially as
Yeah.
you're going like, oh yeah, Shepard made this choice, and you go through and like double check your choices as you load them in from Mass Effect 1. You're like, okay, yep, all right,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
let's go, Shepard. And then, oh, he died. Why were we concerned about like how he felt about this character that
Sure.
he's dead?
Yeah.
And then it launches into kind of this little like the opening credits and everything where it's like, okay, this terrorist organization who's briefly mentioned a couple times in Mass Effect 1, Cerberus, where it's like, this is the terrorist group is how this is
Yeah.
viewed. Like, people do not like Cerberus. And they just revive you. And then you wake
that's
up as their station's getting attacked and they're like, run around. You're like, why am I here with these people? Like, what did you do? What happened? How long has it been? And you kind of have that like, holy shit, what's going on? And then every action you have from there is going like, well, Cerberus is a terrorist group. However, they're helping me do my ultimate mission of defeating the Reapers, and in this case, the Collectors,
Yeah.
as they're coming through here. But it's kind of not a great
Yeah.
group of people, and every person you interact with has that same like, seriously, dude, Cerberus? Like,
Does that work well with the binary choices though? Because to me that seems like really cool gray zoney stuff. But I imagine that does that work well with the binary? Yes, you're a good guy, you're a bad guy sort of stuff.
I think so.
Okay.
Just because I think a lot of times you can kind of, at least what I normally do with it, or what I did with it, was kind of double played it. So it's like,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
hey, like, you go and I mean, you obviously see old characters, so like you see Rex, you're like, no, it's okay. Like, it's just a patch on my arm. I'm not actually working for them. Like, they're just financing this thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're good. And then you go talk to like the other guy, like the elusive man who's like the central figure of Cerberus, and you're like, yeah, no, I appreciate all this. Yeah, of course. Like, I'll help that. Yeah, And you walk out of the room, you're like, no. I don't work for Cerberus. This isn't my jam. Like, no, they're
Yeah.
horrible people. I get it. So you can kind of double play because of those choices. So, I mean, if you're trying to play like strictly Renegade or strictly Paragon, then Merrick, maybe you run into that issue, but
Yeah. That's fair.
I didn't really do it. But again, and then you also run into the fact of like the same thing with Mass Effect 1 where nobody really believes what you're saying. You're like, oh no,
Yes,
these collectors
yeah.
are coming to come and get you. And they're like, and Cerberus is like, no, dude, like, you're right. Like,
Oh,
for
cool.
sure, these guys are coming to get you. And every other person's like, that's some bullshit. What proof do you have? Oh, that's it? Oh, that's some bullshit then. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. So it really is kind of cool the way that you kind of bounce off of this kind of terrorist, shadowy group. And every time you're talking with them, like, nothing ever feels like it's kind of on the level with them. Like, you always
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting half information. And
Sure,
there's a
sure,
couple
sure.
parts where it's like, oh, we got to go get this. And you got to come back and it's like, you set me up, didn't you? You knew. Yep.
That's fu-
But you lived and it worked out for us. But yeah, we set you up. Sorry, man. So
That's pretty cool.
it works really well. And again, I just think the opening and the way that you kind of come into that organization, kind of having that like gratitude for this organization essentially saving you, resurrecting you, putting you back on the path, and really believing in your mission, but also knowing that like they're kind of the bad guys of the galaxy, like the bad human group, is kind of, it's a neat back and forth between all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that Mass Effect 2 is kind of known for is that it's essentially go find your people, and that's
Yes.
the game.
Yeah.
And that's the game. In my mind, that never worked well. But having played it now, I think it works really, really well because you get everybody's perspective so well. You get the perspective of the Quarians, you get the perspective of the Asari, of the Krogan, of every different group. And you're seeing these things. You're hearing about the Collectors. You're hearing about the stuff with Cerberus. You're hearing about how everybody's interacting from different perspectives, whereas Mass Effect 1, you really just get the human side of it. And yeah, you have these other characters, but you never really get to know them quite as well as you do in Mass Effect 2.
Sure. Yeah.
And it really builds these characters up really, really well in a way that, okay, I know the perspectives of my crewmates. I know where they come from. I know how they're seeing all these events unfold, and how that then impacts what you do as Shepard, I think really works well.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I do remember. Is it just that singular, we're building towards this one mission sort of thing? Because
Yeah.
I remember everybody talks about the finale mission, but I couldn't remember story-wise. Is it all building to like everybody knows they're going on this mission? Is that kind of the idea?
So literally, like, the first thing you get from Cerberus is like, we know the Omega 4 relay is where the Collectors live.
Yeah.
Nobody gets out of it alive. We think you can do it. Go get a team and do
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it really builds on that. And of course, it's like, this isn't, it's one of those things where like the Reapers are in hiding for thousands and thousands and like hundreds of thousands of years. So it's
Yeah.
not like this, like, it has to happen this second, which I think works really well for the game and kind of encourages you to do the side stuff. Because it's like, you can really do this whenever. Like, they give it to you
Oh,
at the
okay.
game. Like, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Go do it. But because it's kind of like well, we know they're going to come eventually.
Yeah.
It's not like they're coming tomorrow, and you're like, yeah,
Sure.
But
So it's
Jack
like-
really wants to go back to where she grew up. Like,
Yeah, the worst is definitely like an RPG where like this thing is, there's a countdown to this thing happening, and then you're doing mini games in between. But this one, like,
Exactly.
they actually kind of contextualize, like, we need to do this soon, but we need to really prepare before we go in, kind of thing.
which is exactly what it does. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
in order to do this, you need a strong crew. Go get your crew. Okay, you've got a
Yeah.
good chunk of your crew. In order to do this, you need to have these couple parts for your ship in order so that your ship just doesn't blow up when you touch this thing. Okay,
Sure,
so now go
yes,
get those couple
yeah.
parts. So it's a really weird game in the fact that I think you really know what you're doing from the beginning, and you really don't do anything but prepare for that one thing the entire game.
Yeah.
And it seems like such a weird story thing to go like, this, what's this game? Oh, well, you go through the relay and you fight you have to defeat the collectors there. Okay, well, what
Yeah.
do you do in between? You just go find people.
It's funny for like you think like for an RPG, like that story is like almost too simple for like an RPG or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like trying to describe like Persona's just general plot is just like, okay, you got 10 minutes to me to explain this. Well, compared to like to Mass Effect, that is kind of fun. It's just like a singular sort of thing. But then I think that just kind of gives you a sandbox from which to play, and probably gives you a nicer sandbox to play in then.
And that's the thing. I hate side missions because I always feel like that, like, okay, if I'm really like in this role playing aspect of this, I'm really thinking this through, like, this spaceship's going to come and blow the world up unless you stop it
Yeah.
tomorrow. Go get a team and like,
Yeah.
there's a really fun card game you can play in the middle too. Like, if you really want to, you can spend like hours getting lost in this card game. But like, don't forget, they're coming to kill us. But also, like, if you go over here, there's this cool racing game you can do. And this
Yeah.
dude really, like, he really needs you to go find his lost kids. Like,
Yeah,
I know the
yeah.
planet's going to be blown up in 6 hours, but like, if you could find his lost kid, like,
Yeah,
it works
exactly.
so well because it's not on a timetable.
Yeah.
But with it as well, I think the other thing that allows them to do is because the rest of it is kind of on your own, they can kind of play with all these things. Because every mission, like, if you haven't played it, essentially the basic mission is, or basic structure is, find person, do person's backstory mission,
Yeah.
repeat like 11 times.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
each mission, the way they do it, it feels very different.
Yeah,
So,
it's like
like-
different genres. It's almost like different
Yeah.
genres of sci-fi, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so like one of them, Tali, who's with the Quarians, who kind of have their own fleet. They don't have a planet. The Geth, this robotic race, kind of destroyed their planet, so they're kind of lost in there. She basically gets summoned as like, you did some bad things. You got to go to court, and we're probably just going to throw you in jail.
Yeah.
So it ends up being like this like weird courtroom drama where you have to go to this other spaceship and find the evidence in the spaceship that you aren't the bad guy. Go back and do that. One of them you go to, and it's basically this stranded group of people whose spaceship crashed like 10 years ago, and like this weird like cultish, cannibalish society has arisen, and you've got to kind of make your way through that and figure out what happened.
Yeah.
There's a mission, it was originally one of the DLC ones, but it's roped in here, where you go to a fancy party and you've got to steal some stuff for this dude. Like,
That's pretty cool.
so it hits all these different things, and they're not all super combat focused. The one with
Yeah.
where you're breaking in, I think only has maybe like 2 or 3 combat sections, and they're pretty much all at the tail end. But you do the other like half hour of it just wandering through this party. Like, go find some of this, find some evidence of this, go talk to him, get his voice recorded,
Yeah.
all these kind of things. And it works so well because it's constantly this feeling of like, okay, I'm doing something new. And yes, the vast majority are combat focused, where it's like, okay,
Sure. Yeah.
go kill this dude, go hunt this dude down. But there's enough mixing up there that I think it feels so good just to go through all this that it really almost feels kind of like you said, more of a sci-fi anthology of like just
Sure.
different
Oh,
types
sure.
of space
Yeah.
stories all happening to this crew while they're on this overall mission of like building up a team to go take down the collectors.
And I remember the one thing I did remember about Mass Effect 2 is that it felt like grittier because the people you were meeting, like, and joining your team are just like, some of them are just like not good people. Just like,
Yeah.
like just straight up, just like pretty much bad guys.
Bad guy, and they all come from different places too. So you've got like Miranda, who's like the like corporate lobbyist, who's like one of the hedge Cerberus people. You've got Grunt, who's basically a genetic lab experiment in a tube.
Yeah.
You've got Morden, who's like this doctor who kind of created the genophage, but is also kind of trying to stop it. So he's like kind of a part of a mass genocide, but also kind of like maybe that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you just have all these different people who join your team who are just coming from different spots. And again, I think that's why it works so well, because you're getting these people's perspectives. You're seeing their backstories. You're seeing how they feel about these things that are going on, how they interact with each other, with Shepard. It just works really well. I think Jack's kind of the biggest obvious of like this broken character who's like, again, just like a lab rat who's been.
I like Jack a lot. Jack was the one character I remember. I think I used her a lot. I thought she was like pretty cool. It's just an idea. I don't remember her backstory at all. I just remember she was cool looking.
Yes. Basically, she was picked up because she had like high biotic potential, which is like the like essentially magic of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
And she just gets like recruited by Cerberus and goes into like their like test labs and stuff, and basically lives there forever. Breaks out, kills a bunch of people, and then gets sucked into like this like. It's kind of. The thing that comes to my mind is like The Mandalorian, if you haven't played it, where it's just like this floating spaceship prison. And that's it. It's like you're just locked in a cell in this floating spaceship, so you can never get out.
Yeah.
So she essentially is in there, and you have to go break her out of jail. But again, one of the cooler characters. Again, another cool story that just fits into kind of this anthology case. But yeah,
the one thing I do want to talk about, and like it's not, I'm trying not to get too spoiler, but the one thing I do remember about the final mission that you do build up to, like they let the stakes, like I remember the stake build up, like the build up, like bad things will happen on this mission sort of thing. And I do remember that finale mission. I was like, bad things did happen on this mission. And definitely not to get into spoilers, but like I just remember the ending of that being like, oh, this like completely satisfied the build up to like what they were warning about and that, all that kind of stuff.
So again, because different endings, different choices, you can play it so like almost everyone dies.
Yeah.
You can play it like I did. If you do almost everything and get the platinum trophy, everybody lives, and it's like, yeah, we did a great job, guys. Woohoo, we prepared well. And then obviously a range in between there, but basically, essentially when you go in is you go to this big base, and it's like, okay, we need to pick somebody who can sneak in through the vents. Who do you want that person to be? Okay, if you pick right, the person lives because like, okay, that's somebody who has like technical prowess, is loyal to you, did all the build up. Okay, we need somebody who's good with the biotics. Like, they're going to help protect this biotic shell around you while you're going through here. Okay, if you pick the right person, you've got them leveled up, you've got them loyal, you've got all this stuff. Works out. You need to pick somebody who's a good leader to lead, like, Team 2, what everybody's doing this now. So, depending on the choices, it really, again, encourages you to do all those side missions and everything because, if I'm remembering correctly, essentially, if they're not loyal and you have them do any of those tasks, they die.
Yeah. I just remember the thing. It's just like thinking of like those games where like loyalty is a big part. Like I keep going back to Persona, but there's other games like relationships are really important. But in this one, it's like actually they matter a lot in that final mission of how it plays out, which I thought was like really cool. Like it actually paid. It essentially like, it paid off by putting risk of you losing essentially.
Yeah,
which is them not making it out. Yeah,
which is never explicitly stated, but it's very clear. Like okay, like you need to make sure these guys are on board with this is kind of the way they talk about it. It's like, okay, they need to be like with it. They need to be 100% in on this. And you do that by doing they're called loyalty missions. So I think it gives you a good backbone skeleton of Ray's like, okay, this is why this is going to work. This is how this is going to come. The outline of this, not that deep, but everything you're doing has a purpose, has a meaning to this final build up that it's doing. It's one of the only games I can think of where everything builds to one thing and it works so well.
Yeah. Cool game.
But right now, I'm going about every other month or so playing one. So looking at part 3 in September or so.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know nothing about Mass Effect 3, so that one I'm actually kind of curious about because I just never played it.
All I remember is I didn't play it like right at launch, but I just remember people like bitching like crazy about the ending. I got to the ending, I was like, oh, that was okay.
Yeah.
You could have made worse choices. You could have made better choices, but that's fine.
Yeah. I'm curious how you're going to feel about it, especially doing like one right after the other. Oh.
Same. But anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.